Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Afro Scientific Spirituality. This is the place where we separate the facts from the fiction, the science from the superstition, and the concept from the misconceptions. So today, we are going to be talking about quantum physics and its relationship with African spirituality. So this video is going to be like an introduction for the new book, the second edition of my book that I wrote on quantum physics, which is titled The Interrelationship Between the Evil Forest and Negative Space in Quantum Physics and African Spirituality. So today I'm going to be introducing the book. I'll be explaining out the chapters, and we are going to be knowing more about quantum physics than before. So first of all, let's define this topic. When we say quantum physics, what do we really mean by quantum physics? According to the Western scientific definition of quantum physics, we can say that it's that aspect of science that deals with the study of the miniature particles of nature, meaning the most tiniest particles of nature. The aspect of science that deals with the study of it is quantum physics. We can also say that it is that aspect of science that deals with study of the behavior of matter and light and their atomic and subatomic particles. That is the particles you can see, atomic particles, very tiny particles you can see with the naked eye, and the subatomic particles you can see with the naked eye. Okay? We can also say that it is that aspect of science that seeks to explain the tangible world and how it came into existence. That is another definition. Then we can also say it is that aspect of science that seeks to study the invisible particles of nature, meaning these are the particles that you can't see with your naked eye. And that is exactly where spirituality comes in. Because in spirituality, we study what we cannot see. We study what we can touch physically. We study the unknown. So quantum physics is that aspect of science, of Western science, that deals with studying the unknown. It is as simple as that. In African spirituality, what we do all day, we talk about spirits, we talk about deities, we talk about things that we know or we think exist, but they don't exist in our physical reality. They exist outside this physical reality, but we believe that they influence our own reality. So this is the junction, this is the relationship between quantum physics and spirituality. And the same spirituality is also African spirituality. Here in this channel, we are focusing on African spirituality because we believe it is the origin of all spirituality on this earth. So I wrote this book to understand more about quantum physics, because this is a topic that many people think that is beyond their reach, beyond their level of understanding. I used to think like that for a very long time until I decided to go into this topic. And I was able to discover that it is one of the most easiest topic I have come across. If you go through it from an Afrocentric view, you will know that what quantum physics talks about is all about spirituality. It is all about African spirituality, all about nature. So there is nothing complex about it. So it should be very easy to understand. So this book I have written is actually a compilation of facts from different researchers to prove the validity of the scientific validity of African spirituality, and to bring these facts in a chronological order that makes sense, to prove that what quantum physics is nothing but African spirituality being studied in a Western, or you can say modern day view. So another way of describing quantum physics is African spirituality in review. In this book that I have written, I was able to bring out all the evidence, all the documented facts about the origin of quantum physics. I was able to trace it back to the time of ancient Egypt. It is not something that has been studied today. We Western scientists are not the first people to study quantum physics. They are just learning and they are babies in the study. They were not the first. People have been studying this subject since the beginning of this world. As far as we can remember, we have recorded facts of people in ancient Egypt studying the atomic structure. The atom, which we now know in modern physics, atom, is the same as the atom. In fact, the atom was in ancient Egypt was changed to the atom. In ancient military schools in Egypt, what they study is the atom, atom. This atom is the most tiniest indivisible particle of nature. You have to study this in the mystery schools in order to go into the spiritual world, because they believe the same principle of science. You study from the known to the unknown. You use the known to solve for X. You cannot use X to solve for the unknown. It's impossible. So you have to study nature, then you have to study the minutest parts before you cross over. Okay, let's take a simple example or a trip. They say the atom is composed of three indivisible parts. You have the proton, the neutrons, and the electrons. When you go deeper into the structure of the atom, modern science will tell you that there are other particles that you still cannot see. We call them like quarks and leptons and specks. After you have been able to use your microscope to go beyond these specks, these most tiny particles, you will now move beyond this physical reality into the other side, what I will call the back of the atom. If you have been able to go through these physical particles and you have analyzed their structure, their characteristic to the barest minimum, what you will see that you have now crossed the atom into the other side of the atom. Then we say that you are now inside the spirit world, because now you are not studying particles that does not exist in the physical world. There's another physics for that as well. We call that plasma physics. But I'm not going to go into that here. I'm going to go into that topic in another video, because that is a very deep topic in itself. It is all about study of the spirit world. Today I will stop on the physical world. I will stop at the gates. I call the atom quantum physics the gates of the last gate of the physical world or the spiritual world. Quantum physics is that last gate. When you cross, after you have completed your studies in quantum physics, you will now go into plasma physics, meaning you are now fully in the spiritual world scientifically. We are going to get there in another topic. But now, let's deal on quantum physics. So, in my own definition, quantum physics is simply the Western aspect of studying the invisible particles of nature, which is studying the spirit world. So, quantum physicists, those scientists, they can also be seen as priests or babalawos or dibias, because they study the invisible particles. Most times, if I don't know how to explain what I practice to people, I tell them I'm a quantum physicist. Their brain will go crazy. They'll say, what is a quantum physicist? I'll tell them, okay, I'm a native doctor. Are you okay with that definition? Take it or leave it. We study invisible particles. If you study invisible particles, that is your title, or that is your heading, that is your description. Now let's go into the book. Chapter 1, I dedicated it to the great, illustrious Dr. Oyibo of Kogi State, Nigeria. He is the first person that quantum physicist in Nigeria. He was the one that is responsible for Gagut, the God Almighty Grand theory that united the theories of Newton and Einstein together. It is a theory that, it is a theorem that it is a setting that the universe already exists in a finite form. So everything is happening constantly at the same time. It is a very, very powerful theory. This is a man that is ahead of his time. What he did with that theory, he finalized all the work of spirituality. He proved the supremacy of God in human form. Actually, he has done the work for us on quantum physics. There's nothing else for us to do anymore, but just to follow after his footsteps and to start applying the principles and his formula to live our life. So the first chapter of that book is only appropriate that I give it as a dedication to him. So many people in this generation don't even know who Dr. Oyibo is, so they don't even know the great work that he has done. And he's a man that is, for some reasons, they are not giving him the accolades that he's supposed to have. I don't know why, but we'll get there someday. So everybody that wants to study quantum physics needs to know about this man. You need to know about Gargut. I have everything about Gargut in that first chapter. So you are going to be getting the information, all the information about Dr. Oyibo in the book. Chapter 2, I talk about synopsis of African spirituality. I talk about the various scientific practices inherent in African spirituality. I talked about the origin. I was able to trace the origin of African spirituality. I put in there a 250,000 years BC origin, existence of the practice of African spirituality by Robert Duval, Black Genesis, with scientific, etymological, well-documented evidence of the worship of the African black woman called Hathor, the golden cow. It is there. So we are not the first people to study all this. People have been studying it for hundreds of thousands of years. But just newcomers on the field. I was able to trace the scientific origin of Africa, the root race of this world, because over the years, many Western scholars have been coming up to contest that position with Africans, that we are not the root race, that some people came before us. Right now, this modern world, as far as I'm concerned, Africa is the root race. Every other race can be traced from the African roots. I'm not saying this because I'm a black person. I am saying this irrespective of that. It is a fact, and so many Western people have been bringing this misconception due to racism, due to trying of putting down the black race, of not giving us credits for what we are, trying to contest our origin, contest our place on this planet. Can you imagine? So sad, so painful. So the scientific evidence to prove this, I listed all of them in this book to shut those people's mouth once and for all. Okay, so chapter 3, I even talked about the ghost DNA that came out just 2020. I have to put it in this second edition about how so-called Western scientists have been able to come up with some explanation or some research that part of the DNA of West Africans are not human. They were claiming that some of our ancestors might have copulated with races that are unknown or aliens. So we are somehow different from the rest of the human world. I have always known this. I have known that I don't belong in this planet for a very long time. I don't know what I'm doing here, wasting time on this planet. So that is not used for, it's not really news for people like us in Africa. We knew this one is not our place. We're just doing time here. Chapter 3, I was able to talk about I talk about quantum entanglement. I talk about the proton entanglement as well. I talk about various scientific principles that we trace to African spirituality. And I was able to bring in a lot of scientific evidence to prove these facts. In this book, I decided to take most of my evidence from advanced scientists, and most of the times I make sure that 90% of this documentation came from white scientists, so that maybe some white people will not say that I am biased. I wrote a book and I was using black scientists to prove our validity as trying to prove that we are supreme. No, I am not the one that did all this research. It is people from Ivy League Western universities, top of the line. Those are the people that did this research. This is what they said. So if you read this book, you can go and argue with them because they are the one that did the research. I just read, I know I agree with it and I put it in the book. I want it to open a debate. So you can argue with them. So it's not me that did most of the research. I just compiled it and I examined it scientifically in the court of my heart. So it's also in the book too. Chapter 4, I talk about the phenomenon of negative space. In physics, we have what they call negative space, where negative energies can be trapped and stored. We have that phenomenon in African spirituality. We have it in the concept of the evil forest that is very, very prevalent in almost every culture in Africa. We have this evil forest where we used to trap negative entities all the time. We have always had this concept of negative space. I talked about it a lot in chapter 4. I also talk about the wormhole. I talked about the black hole. I talk about the functions and why they are necessary. It is also in the book as well. Chapter 5, I elaborated between the major difference between the evil forest, the wormhole, and the black hole. And I brought in some scientific evidence as well to prove some point there. Chapter 6, I went into time travel and black magic. Time travel is a concept that is scaring many people. The idea of people disappearing and appearing by a location. Most modern day people, my Christian brothers, will tell you that it's only people worshiping the devil that can be able to achieve that feat. 200 years ago, your cell phone will be witchcraft to the average Christian. So we don't listen to those people anymore. We know that they are mad people. Any new technology is first of all evil and demonic. They are just like dog babies. Then after science have taught them how to use it, they will be the first one to use it to be promoting their fake religion. We always see this all the time with Christians. Recently it was 5G. They were all screaming that 5G was the work of the devil, it is this, it is that, they should not put 5G to us. Now they are all using 5G technology to broadcast their fallacy gospel. When time travel is going to get here, when we start using time jack and time machines to move from place to place, they will be the first to start using it for evangelism. So we don't even talk about those people. We know that it's going to get there. So I talk about time travel. Is it really black magic? I talk about the concept of black magic. What is black magic? Doing spells. Is it really wishful thinking? What really goes on when we do black magic? What is the difference between black magic and white magic? Are there any difference? I talked about it in that chapter. What is the relationship between black magic and African spirituality? Is African spirituality another name for black magic? It is there in chapter 7. Chapter 8, very serious chapter. I talk about this concept called melanin. This melanin, this thing, science says melanin. What does it really mean? Where did it come from? They say we have melanin. What is melanin? Most black people don't even know. They say it's carbon. I trace the origin of melanin. I trace all where melanin occurs naturally on this planet. I talk about melanin in plants. I talk about melanin in animals. I talk about melanin in space. I talk about melanin in the black hole. I talk about carbon. There's some people said in their book that the number of man is 666. That 666 is the number of their beasts. I don't know which beast they are talking about, but I talk about the scientific elements that have 666, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which is carbon and which is the building block of the universe. So if you are going to say that, if some people are going to say that carbon is evil, meaning the whole universe is evil, because everything that contains carbon in the universe, including man, contains 666 because that is the scientific periodic table number of the element of carbon. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So, does it mean that we are evil people? Or does it mean that we are real humans? Or does it mean that somebody is trying to give us a bad name? That we say that people that have these chemical components in abundance are evil people? We don't know, but I put it inside the book because it's a very serious topic. Then number 9, I talked about, which is the last chapter, I talked about sacred space. Because if we know how to create negative space, we should also know how to create positive space. So it's only rational that I write something about how to create positive space in your environment, in your house, your living room, in your office. So that is how I ended the book. Then I put a little chart on how to classify African deities, because many of us from Africa, we don't really know much about African deities. We don't even know anything about African spirituality. So in this book that I have been able to present here, you just need to have one copy and you will know everything about African spirituality that is backed by science. I was able to bring all the scientific evidence to prove every point that I argued, that I laid down in the book. So it's not that I'm telling you a story. Even the history of Africa, what happened to Africa, the history of how the Christian religion came into Africa is also inside the book. How Christianity plagiarized from ancient Egypt and all other religions before it. It is inside this book. This book is a very powerful book. It is a manual for living of. It's an encyclopedia of knowledge. This is a book that I believe every African needs to have one copy, need to read it. As an African person, you need to know about yourself. All this thing we're calling know yourself, know thyself, know thyself. You need to know who you are, to appreciate who you are. So this is a must-read book because it contains all the scientific evidence to prove the validity of African spirituality, and to prove the natural aspects of living. Everything we do in African spirituality is based on common sense and rationality. There is no hocus pocus inside. So those misconceptions about African spirituality that is flying out there, I see most practitioners practicing those things. I don't understand. My aim of starting this channel is to alert people of those kind of things that are not necessary. In this channel, the purpose is to separate the facts from the fiction, the science from the spirituality, and the concept from the misconceptions. And I have been able to do that so far with this very book on quantum physics. So I want everybody, every African, to get a copy of this book. Fortunately now, the second edition is already out on e-copy. So I don't have printed copy for now, but I intend to print in the future. For the e-copy of this book, I'll be selling it for $15, which I think is a very good price, the bargain price. The first edition, I sold it for $25. I sold out the first set of books. Now I'm selling this as an e-copy because I want everybody to get a copy and to go through this material, because this material is going to intimate you with all the knowledge about African spirituality that have been out that have been scattered all over the place. I was able to compile all this into a concise format for your consumption and also for your information. So it's very, very important that all of us from Africa, in fact the whole world, should have a copy of this book. So I encourage you to please buy this book. I will be putting a link under this video where you can get in touch with me to get the book For those of you that have read the first chapter that I have been offering on this channel, if you like what you have read, the full book is now out. Or if you say, okay, you want to test before you drink, you can still go to the link below, download the first chapter. If you like what you read, then order the whole book. If that chapter is good enough for you, then you should know that what you are getting is the best. So I'm very happy that this book is a pilot project for me, and I'm very grateful that I was able to compile all this information in a concise form and present it to you people, and you people now have to be the judge. So what is it going to be? Are you going to take the bull by the horns, or you are going to ignore it? Are you going to forget about your history and going and live your normal life as the rest of our people have done before? This is the time for us to know we are the ones that are going to change this generation. If we ignore our responsibility, we are just keeping this problem or this yoke for the next people, and it's going to be more difficult for them. Some of our ancient African ancestors have failed us. That is why we are suffering today. Even right now, our so-called leaders are currently failing us as we are speaking right now. What are we doing about it? Are we going to ignore it and just keep living our life, drinking our beer, sleeping, having sex, eating, forgetting what is happening in life, not caring? This is now for you to make that decision. One day you are going to be an elder, the next day you are going to be an ancestor. What are you going to do? Are you going to be a sleeping soul, a ghost without eyes or ears, wandering the plane of the dead? Or are you going to be running things, looking into the future, into the millennium, ordering things? You're going to choose your destiny. The knowledge now that people have been hiding, you say they have been hiding it from you. Some people don't want you to know. It is now right now in front of you. I have presented it. Yes, once again, the tablets have now been presented to you now in this book. The scroll is now being given back to you for just $15. That is a couple of beer, Jack Daniels, less than a bottle of Jack Daniels. It is right in front of you. What are you going to do? Click the link, get the book, and start straightening things and start changing your destiny. So I'm very happy today that the book is out. It's my great pleasure to present it to you. I thank you very much for your support, all the people that helped me to seek this research, all my people that encouraged me, I thank them. And I'm very grateful. So please share and like this video, buy the book, download the first chapter, join the Metaphysical Study Group if you would like to discuss with us once in a while. You can also check my Teespring if you like a spiritually inspired fashion. Comments and questions are always welcome, and I'm very happy. The next video, I'll be talking about plasma physics. I'll be opening a big can of bombs with that topic. This is just the beginning. So it's my pleasure once again. I wish you a very good day. Take care. Bye. See you in the next video.